A big part of understanding you as an applicant is understanding where you go to school, both the educational system of your country and your actual school. Now, international admission counselors are trained in international education systems, so that part is not the problem. Understanding your specific school, however, is much more difficult. Many high schools around the world have a document called a school profile. The school profile is submitted to colleges and universities along with the official academic documents. A school profile includes information all about the school, and it might include things like address, how many students are in the school, or how many students are in the graduating class. Also, information about the school community. What kind of school is it? Is there a specialty? Is it a boarding school? And who is it that attends? A profile might include a grading scale. What is the grading scale used at your school? Is it A through F, 0 through 4, 0 through 10, 0 through 100? What is the minimum grade required to pass? Are grades weighted or unweighted? Even academic performance could be included on a school profile. So how does your school calculate grade point average? How do students perform? What's the highest GPA in the class? What's the lowest GPA in the class? What is the distribution of the GPAs within the class? The curriculum at your high school is important. Is the curriculum set or flexible? What classes do all students have to take to graduate? Does the school offer more difficult college preparatory type classes, or are all the classes the same level of difficulty? A common piece of school profiles is college admission information. How many students from your school go to college or university after graduation? How many go to school in the U.S.? How many go to school in your home country or in other countries around the world? Which specific schools have graduates attended? And even contact information. Who can an admission officer contact with questions about you or questions about the school? All of these are just samples of the kind of information that can be on a school profile. Find out if your school already has a school profile. If they do not, speak to a school counselor or administrator about creating one. There are great online resources like the College Board that can help your school write and create a school profile. Not only will you be helping yourself, but you will also be helping the students that come after you who are applying for U.S. admission. Now, school forms is actually a term that refers to the Common Application. For the Common App, you will have to fill out the application form, which captures information about you, and you will have to assign someone at your school to complete forms about your school, to capture that information about where you were educated. On most applications, you're going to be asked to list a school counselor. Now, colleges understand that not all students have someone called a school counselor, and that is just fine. You need to list someone, anyone, who can provide information about you or your school. That could be a principal, a head of school, a school president, someone who is called a counselor, or even a teacher. Whoever you list will be asked to fill out forms as part of your application. The information requested on these forms is similar to the types of information that we discussed for the school profile. Now, understand that these forms impact your application in two big ways. First, at many universities, these forms are a requirement. That means that if you do not submit the form, your application will be incomplete, meaning your application will never be read. Second, these forms are incredibly important when evaluating your application for admission because they help the admission counselor understand the quality of your education and how well you have taken advantage of your educational opportunities. Earlier in this course, we discussed how important it was to challenge yourself by taking harder classes. What if your school did not offer harder classes? There is no way for a college to know that unless your school shares that information on a profile or on the school forms. What if your school gives grades from 0 to 100 and your average is an 85? Most people would look at that and assume you were an average student. But what if the highest average in your class was an 88? Now, how does your 85 average look? There is no way for an admission counselor to know that type of information unless your school gives it to them. Let's say you go to a really good school where most of your classmates will go on to attend great universities, either at home or abroad. Maybe you're a good student, but not at the very top of the class. Well, being in the middle of a class at a highly competitive high school is very different than being in the middle of the class at another school. Again, there is no way for an admission counselor to know how competitive your school is unless your school tells them. Much like your recommendations, school documents can be submitted either online electronically or physically by post. Your specific situation should determine which way you submit. Again, colleges and universities always prefer online, but sometimes it's just easier to submit paper documents by post. The timing of your school documents will also depend on your situation. If your school already has a school profile and someone that can act as your school counselor, then you don't have much work to do. However, if your school does not have a school profile, or if you do not have someone who can act as your school counselor, you have a lot of work to do. Think about your situation and start having conversations about this piece of the application now. After you figure out what kind of information your school has prepared, add this piece to your application plan. Remember, in many cases, you will not be able to submit your application until you have all of this information. So make sure that you do not wait too long. Once again, I understand that for some of you, getting this information or even identifying a counselor is going to be difficult. Look at it from an admission counselor's perspective. If they receive your application with none of this information, what impression does that give? Take it a step further. If you were an admission counselor, who would you feel more confident in accepting? Someone whose educational background you know and understand? Someone that has a counselor that can answer questions for you? Or someone whose educational background is a complete mystery? Always keep your best application in mind. This information and these documents are a big part of submitting your best application for admission.